So we're given these two readings. Many times the gospel and that first reading, they talk to each other. And so you get to learn something by, as the rabbis in Judaism would say, the stringing of pearls together. You just put these beautiful insights together and they actually come up with something even more beautiful. So you have this way in which you have this pagan, really pagan sorcerer, a seer. His name is Balaam. And he actually listens to God. You see the scribes, the Pharisees, the priests, those who know the scriptures, and they don't listen to the very voice of the Lord who's speaking to them right then. So there's this big contradiction. And it's quite interesting. This first reading, Balaam is hired by the king of Moab in order to, this fellow named Balak, and he wants Balaam to put a curse upon the Israelites. And so Balaam is summoned. He's coming. This is the very famous story of the donkey that doesn't want to go one particular way. And Balaam gets really mad because it's like, well, that's the way that I'm supposed to go. So he starts beating the donkey. And very mysteriously, the donkey turns to him and starts talking to Balaam, saying, "Master, why are you beating me? I just saved your life." And Balaam is like, wow, donkeys don't normally talk. And the donkey goes on saying, there was an angel with a fiery sword that was blocking your path and would have killed you if you kept on going that way. So ultimately, Balaam has a different way. He gets to Balak, and Balak says, okay, here's your money, go and curse him. And so Balaam gets ready, and then he starts speaking. But instead he starts praising the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He starts praising Israel, saying, in fact, there is going to be a star that shall rise, a king that shall rise. A staff shall rise from Israel, a star shall advance from Jacob. This is one of the early prophecies given by a pagan sorcerer who God just sort of said, you know, I can do a lot of creative things, so I'm going to just use this guy who's trying to hurt my people, and I'm actually going to use the words to bless Jacob. Again, this is one of the early prophecies of the Messiah, who's going to come from Jacob, who's going to come from Israel. And ultimately that's Jesus, because when the star rose in the east and the wise men saw that star, again, they were pagan astrologers, and yet there was something about that star. Through their own language and through their own paganism, they were searching for the truth, and it actually led them to Christ. And they went away from meeting Christ by a different way. Again, a sign that they left those things that were not in accord with faith in Christ, and they clung to Christ. So that's what we should do if this pagan sorcerer is able to listen to the Lord and then say, well, this is what he's saying, so even though, King, you're telling me to curse these guys, I can't but say what I hear. We need to be more like that, versus the chief priests, the elders of the people, are coming saying, by what authority are you doing these things? Who gave you this authority? And Jesus would have told them, but he said, you're just trying to trick me. You don't really want to hear the answer to that. So I'm going to give you a question, just show me whether you have the humility to receive that answer. And that's sometimes when we're sort of testing God, when we're tempting God, many times God doesn't answer, because our heart is so hard that we would just take it and then we would sort of spin it around, we would use it in a different way. And so he's like, well, I'm not going to give you that answer until your heart is actually open to receive it. So he says, well, where was John's baptism from? And he puts them, they were trying to trap him, he puts them into this conundrum. Notice how they don't have the humility to say, we're sorry, we want to know the truth. They didn't want to know the truth. And they started thinking about, how is this going to look? So if we say this, then he's going to say, well, why don't you believe John? If we say this, then we're afraid of the crowd. And notice how they're not actually afraid of God. They're just kind of afraid of their own status. And so they look at him and point blank lie to him, saying, we don't know. It's because they don't want to receive the truth. And then Jesus looks at them, probably with great sadness, saying, well, I won't give you your answer. So it's a good thing for us to meditate on. Do we have the heart like these Pharisees that are wanting the truth on our own terms? Wanting the Lord to bless us, to show us things, but on our own terms. Versus having that humility and that softness of heart of saying, Lord, you lead me. I don't want to take your gospel. I don't want to take it and just put it into my own categories that make me feel comfortable and make me feel protected in my own status, in my own clinging to whatever I want. Lord, I want to empty myself for you, that you can fill me. I want to be in a certain way like this fellow Balaam, who in that particular moment, even though he was going the totally wrong way, he at least listened. He didn't block the Spirit of the Lord. Because of that, a blessing came forth.